it's hard not to watch Jermaine Johnson. That is the guy right now. Like he went from a guy that's like nobody's mocks to a first round. Like he's out of the 49ers range. They're not getting him, but he's incredible.
Okay, Jason, here's what I want you to do for me. You're at the Senior Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
You're scouting, and you've been doing this. Please break down the players that should be on the Niners radar, and do it for someone like me who literally knows zero about these prospects and is just starting his research now that the season's over. Because I think a lot of Niner fans kind of are like that.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And all of us got a late start.
Like, I don't know their names. I don't know their positions. I don't know their schools. Introduce me to some players.
You're good. Like, look, we all got a late start because the 49ers made a run. Like last year, after about week 11, we all just turned the page and we were just like, okay, here we go.
Who are the quarterbacks?
Yeah, exactly. Like, what are we doing here? But you have to look at it like this. What do the 49ers need? Okay, what's the position they need? And so we'll say corner, line. I think edge is always something that they're going to be looking at and something that they always want to build on, depending on where that goes. I think those are
safety to nickel couldn't hurt. I'm just saying,
right? Maybe a punt returner, because one guy that I've got in my mind is a wide receiver that would help a lot, and I think that he's been very good. Somebody that fits and complements, right? Like there's like everybody's talking about Christian Watson. He went to NDSU. He went with Caitlin, right? Yes. Okay, yeah. Now everybody's talking about that. It's now that you look at him and I got a chance to watch him, he feels redundant with Juwan Jennings.
Yeah.
Right, like the same thing.
It does seem like wide receivers a little bit down the list of needs for the Niners at this point. They got 3 good ones. Although one's running back half the time, I don't know. Anyway,
no, but 100%, you're right about that. But Calvin Austin III is somebody who's a wide receiver, but he's 5'8", right? He's 5'8", and everybody's like, "Oh, I don't like his size," but you're not thinking about how the 49ers could utilize him. So what we've been seeing here is a guy who catches those same passes like Debo. He's got a little shiftiness and he moves and he's a little bit faster, but punt returner. And he also like housed a bunch of punts. So this special teams unit needs somebody who can put them in favorable position. And they haven't had that the entire time. So there we go. And now I'll pass it to Javi, who definitely has a bunch of people.
Jermaine Johnson was the guy who stood out. He didn't lose one rep. You got the safety from Texas A&M, Leon O'Neal Jr. He had himself a good practice. The Niners are going to need a safety. We don't know what's happening with Kwaski. The corner group, Gregory Jr. out of Cheetah Baptist. He had some nice, really, really good reps. But I think the guy that the Niners should really pay attention to is Roger Mccreary. I know there is an issue with his short arms, but they had him mostly lined up in the slot. We don't know what's going to happen with K'Wan Williams. I think that's the guy that the Niners really, really need to take a look at. Can they get him at 61? I don't know. That's where the Jimmy Garoppolo trade comes in, right? If you can acquire another pick to move up and possibly get yourself another slot corner or just another corner. The edge group or the defensive line group is just really good. Tyree Smith out of Ohio State, Arnold Ebiketie from Penn State, and then Jesse Luketa out of Penn State as well. Some really, really good guys, the size. Oklahoma had 2 guys here that were represented pretty well. I'm going over my notes here. Sorry, I just had to number 98 for the – I'm trying to find him here. His last name is Perion from Oklahoma. He had himself a really good day. This class is not as loaded as last year's class. So, they're going to have to find some really good gems in the middle. And I think we know the Niners can do that. That 3rd, 4th, 5th round is kind of where they're going to want to do that. But at the very least, they need pick 61, and I think it's 93. Those 2 guys need to be starters on this roster in 2022 because you have all these holes to fill in free agency. You need to get cheaper because of the bigger contracts for Armstead, Warner, Kittle, and those guys are going to have on just a salary cap next year. So you need starters out of this draft class, not do what we did this year in 2021 where we're like, we're just going to develop everybody and wait till week 12 to get guys in going. You know what I mean? Like there has to be a better development program for these rookies with the Niners. But a lot of guys to like. Zion Johnson's another one. I think the Niners need to address the center position. Alex Mack is almost 40. It's time to start getting younger. And I always had this question about Kyle Shanahan with centers. Like he had Daniel Kilgore, then he trades him away for what was his name? Richburg. They get Richburg, and then they go with Ben Garland, then they go with Alex Mack. Like they have a revolving door at center. Like, can we get a young guy and develop him to be the guy that's going to run with Lance for the next 5, 6, 7 years? So I think that'd be an idea to go get a center with that second selection in the draft in the third round. Like I would go if I'm the Niners, I'm going safety, center, and find myself a nice edge rusher in the later part of the draft because you don't need you have Ibukum, you'll probably bring back Key, you'll probably bring back Amenahu, yeah, like you'll bring back those guys. Amenahu will be here because he still has one more year left in his contract. So if you can get yourself a deep an edge rusher late in the draft, that's kind of the way to go. That's how I would do it: safety, center, edge rusher, and then spend a little bit of money in the free agency pool for just a middle of the road corner. You don't need an elite corner. So hopefully Ambry Thomas develops, and I think they'll bring back Jason Verrett as a depth guy. We don't know how that's going to work out, but safety, center, edge would be my order.
All right. Anything you want to add, Jason?
No, I mean, I think he nailed it. One guy that I have my eye on is Cam Taylor-Britt from Nebraska. He's a 6-foot corner as well, too. What I really like, I have to watch him a little bit more in coverage, but what I like is how he defends the run. And that's something that is really good as well, too. He's a big guy. He wants to hit. I like him a little bit as well, too. It was really hard yesterday because it was pouring rain the entire time. It was so bad. And it was hard to evaluate, receivers, quarterbacks. Like the ball was slipping, sliding everywhere. Like it wouldn't stop raining the entire time. Like we were just getting rained on the entire day. But though, I mean, all of those guys that Javi talked about, it's absolutely true. And then, those guys that we talked about, Calvin Austin is a guy that was put on to me. And then when I watched him a little bit, I start to see where he fits. So I'm going to naturally gravitate towards offense. Javi's much better at evaluating, the actual team needs. I want to see like the big pop guys, like who's going to do that. And it's just one more thing I got to say, and I don't want to come off disrespectful, but this Senior Bowl group, this draft class, it's like, unless there's some guys that are just going to do something that nobody can see. Mm-hmm. This one doesn't feel as exciting as last year. Like last year, we were looking at 10, 12 guys where we were like, look at all of these guys. And a bunch of them ended up being very, like Elijah Mitchell was here last year. Yeah. And that was one of the guys that we had like lower on the list, like Michael Carter, all these other guys, like, and it's just, I don't know what it is about either this draft class or this Senior Bowl class. It's just like, it's not as exciting right now.
All right. Kyle says, do you guys think they could trade McGlinchey and play Compton more at right tackle next year?
I don't. Yeah, like the thing is like I think that McGlinchey injury is a little bit more serious than people are leading on at this point. And look, Tom Compton was fine, but the last 2 games, that was Tom Compton right there. Like Green Bay and the Rams, that was Tom Compton. So like that's the thing. It's like everybody wanted to say, well, it doesn't matter about McGlinchey. Well, you see. Like it's still Tom Compton.
Better than McGlinchey, though? I mean, it's not that I'm not saying Tom Compton's better than him, but like, can't you get better than that? I mean, I guess you're already committed to McGlinchey.
Yeah, you can get better than McGlinchey, of course, but
yeah,
for what he is, he fits what they need as far as a run defender. He's not the worst in pass blocking. I know he's had his miscues. Like he'll have 55 good snaps, but then the 5 that he misses are at the worst time. It's like 3rd and 6, and Jimmy's taking the sack, or he's got a false start, or he's holding somebody, he's riding somebody around the corner. There is a tackle here that is getting a lot of attention. Trevor Penning out of Northern Iowa. That's a guy to look for. He would be a good fit based on some of the film I saw. So that would be an ideal start there. Like you can probably get him later on in the draft because he's coming from a smaller school. But I would not feel comfortable going with Jalen Moore or Tom Compton next year at all, like starting. Now, is McGlinchey's quad tear more so the muscle, or was it just like the tear from the bone? That's the difference. That's what they haven't told us yet, right? You do a little bit of research on it. Guys who usually tear that quad muscle don't ever recover, and I think part of that is like they don't ever recover to full health. And we already knew Jimmy. McGlinchey had his limitations as a right tackle. How much does that hinder him going forward? Right? Is that going to help him? Is that going to make him worse as a pass blocker and a run blocker? And you have $10 million invested in him. Could you trade him? I don't know if anyone's really going to want to trade for a guy who's got an injury like that, right? Do you cut him? It just depends on how severe the injury is. So it's just one of those things. I think offensively they need to – obviously Trent Williams is going to be here. You need to resign Laken Tomlinson, and that entire center to right side needs to be reworked, especially if you're going to get rolled out with Trey Lance next year. And you're going to have the money to do it. So go ahead and spend. You want to spend on the trenches on defense, go spend on the trenches on offense, because that's the only way you're going to win this league. It always comes down to the trenches. We saw it on the NFC Championship game. Aaron Donald and those guys were just mauling the right side of the offensive line, and you need to upgrade all those guys.